Welcome to this video lecture series on C programming. Today's topic of discussion is on nested loops. So in my previous sessions I have explained the different iteration statements. The different iteration statements are also called as looping statements. Normally there I have used the word as looping statements. Remember, all these are called as the iteration statements only, and this iteration statements we have seen three types of iteration statements. One is the while, the other one is the do while, and we have the for loop. So these three are the iteration statements. Now if at all one iteration statement contains another iteration statement, then we say it is a nested loop or nested statement. So that is how is the meaning here. If the body of a loop contains another iteration statement, then we say that the loops are nested. Suppose if I am writing like this, for loop, okay, this is one for loop. Inside the body of this for loop, instead of the statements, now I am using one more for loop. That means the body of this outer for loop contains what? Another for loop. Then I can write the statements pertaining to this innermost for loop and then close the flower brace for the innermost for loop. Suppose after this I am writing some more statements and then closing the flower loop. You can see here the innermost for loop. Okay, this is the innermost for loop and this is the outermost for loop. So this way we say this is the outermost for loop. The body of this outermost for loop is having what? One more for loop. So one loop contains another loop inside. In that way we say it is a nested loop. Not only two times, you can use any number of innermost for loops. For example, I can write first, okay, one for loop. Then inside this, the body of this outer for loop has got one for loop. The second for loop, I am writing one more here, okay. Then I'll write the statements for the third for loop. I'll close the flower brace for the third for loop. Then I'm writing some statements which are applicable for the second for loop. Then finally I'm writing some more statements and closing the flower brace for the outermost for loop. So if you see the structure, it appears like this. The outermost for loop, suppose if I'm giving this as number 1, the outermost for loop, the body of the outermost for loop has got this 2 and 3, okay, as the body of the loop. So this is pertaining to the innermost, third one, okay. This is the block for the innermost for loop, that means the third for loop. This is the block for the second for loop, and this one is the block for the first for loop, that is the outermost. So the outermost for loop, this one is completely what? Covering these two for loops inside its body. So this is how you can write the statements or programs using the nesting of loops. One example I have given here. So let me show you the working of this program. That is, I'll carry out the dry run for this program. So as I said, there are two variables here. One is I and j. First, outer for loop, it is used to keep track of the number of rows, whereas the inner for loop will keep track of the number of times the star gets printed in each row. So we'll start with the outer for loop. Now I equal to 1. Okay, if I equal to 1, this statement gets executed. Hope you people are following. I wanted to tell you that the star is, okay, getting printed in 4 rows, and each row we are printing 4 times. So in order to keep track of this number of stars getting printed in each row and number of rows in this particular output, we require two variables. So one variable I, okay, will keep track of what? The number of rows that are getting included here in the output, and one variable j will try to keep track of what? The number of times the star gets printed here in each row. So with this I'll start now the explanation. For first statement is I equal to 1, yes 1. I equal to 1, this is the initialization. Whether 1 is less than or equal to 4. I'll write it in small font. So I equal to 1, yes. Then I is less than or equal to 4. Yes, it is true. If it is true, what is that you will be doing? See, you are coming here to this statement. I is 1, I is 1. I less than or equal to 4. Yes, 1 is less than or equal to 4. You have to test this condition. If 1 is less than or equal to 4, yes, it is true. As per the functioning of the for loop, from this testing condition, it will go to the body of the loop. Inside the body, we have one more for statement. There we are having one variable called as j. So whether j equal to 1, yes, j is equal to 1. Then j less than or equal to 4, whether 1 is less than or equal to 4, yes, it is true. So you will what? Once again after this testing condition, it will enter the body of the loop. It will print in the output the star. Okay, so this star gets printed here. Once this statement gets executed, the control will go back to the increment operation of the for loop. So here the value for j is incremented by 1, j equal to 2. So j equal to 2, then test the condition whether 2 less than or equal to 4. Yes, it is true. If it is true, then it will print the star. So the star gets printed here. Then once again from here it will increment the value for j equal to 3, 3 less than or equal to 4. Yes, it is true. So that means it is trying to complete first the iterations pertaining to the inner loop. Only once it completes all the iterations of the inner loop, it will continue with what? The remaining iterations of the outer loop. And in every inner loop and in every outer loop iteration, all the number of iterations that are required for the inner loop gets executed. Look here, we had first the outer loop iteration we have done only once when I equal to 1. Under this only we got j equal to 1, j equal to 2 and j equal to 3. So here once this j equal to 3 it is true, then it will come back and it will print the character, whatever character you have written here, printf. Then it will increase the value for j equal to 4. So 4 less than or equal to 4, it is true. If it is true, then it will print fine. Once again after printing, it will continue with the inner loop, j plus plus, j becomes 5, 5 less than or equal to 4. Now the condition is false. If it is false, now what will happen? It will not continue this printing of star. The control will come out from this loop and it will print whatever statement is written after this. After this is what? Simply we are performing one action, that is the new line character. That means the control now comes to the second line here. Because of this new line character, we are just making that the cursor to come to the next line. Then once this gets completed, it will continue with the for loop. It will increment this operation of the outer for loop. Now I value becomes 2. Okay, increment is what? Incrementing the I by 1. Previous value was 1, now I becomes 2. So once it is 2, this condition is tested. 2 less than or equal to 4, the condition is true. If it is true, then it will enter the body of the loop. Now j value is 1. Once again it will repeat all the iterations pertaining to the inner loop. J equal to 1, then it will test 1 less than or equal to 4, it is true. Then it will come here and print the value for star. So once again after printing, it will continue with the inner loop, j plus plus, j equal to 2, 2 less than or this one, 2 less than or equal to 4, it is true. Then it will enter the loop, it will print the star. Then j equal to 3, 3 less than or equal to 4, it is true, it will print the star. Then increment the value for j equal to 4, 4 less than or equal to 4, it is true, it will print the star. Then next increment the value of j becomes 5, 5 less than or equal to 4, now the condition is false. So once the condition is false, it will come out from this loop, okay, and it will print the next statement, whatever is here, it is a new line character. Now you are bringing the cursor to the next line with this new line. And further now it will continue with the outer loop because it has to complete the iterations for the outer loop. It will come here and now I value becomes 3. Because previous value is 2, now I becomes 3. Now once again what? 3, you are going to I equal to 3, 3 less than or equal to 4, yes it is true. If it is true, then here, okay, 3 less than or 4, if it is true, it will enter the value. Then j equal to 1, yes, 1 is less than or equal to 4, it is true. Now it will complete all the iterations pertaining to the innermost for loop. So it will, once it is true, it will print the star, fine. Then increment the value for j equal to 2, 2 less than or equal to 4, it is true. If it is true, then print the character star, increment the value of j by 1, 3 less than or equal to 4, it is true. Print the star, increment the value of j by 1, j equal to 4, 4 less than or equal to 4, print the star. Then increment the value for j equal to 5, 5 less than or equal to 4, it is false. Once it is false, it will come to this statement, okay, and it will go, the cursor will, that means you are shifting the control to the next line here. Then after this, since you have to continue with the outer for loop, all the remaining iterations, once again you will go back to this, okay, from here, and I plus plus, now I value becomes 4. Because previous value is what? 3 and I equal to 3. Now increment the I value, I becomes 4. Test the condition here, 4 less than or equal to 4, it is true. If it is true, enter the body of the loop. Then inside the body you have the inner for loop. Start the iterations for the inner for loop. First is j equal to 1, 1 less than or equal to 4, yes it is true. If it is true, then start printing the character, because if it is true it will enter into this loop and it will print the star. After that it will increment the value, j equal to 2, 2 less than or equal to 4, it is true, print the star. J equal, increment the value of j, it is 3 now, 3 less than or equal to 4, it is true. If it is true, print the star. J equal, then increment the value of j by 1, j equal to 4, 4 less than or equal to 4, it is true, then print the star. Then increment the value for j, j equal to 5, 5 less than or equal to 4. Now the condition becomes false. Once the condition becomes false, it will come out of the loop and it will come to the next, okay, that is the new line character. Then after that it will go back to the iterations of the outer for loop. Outer for loop iteration, now I value will become 5, because previous value is how much, 4. Once I value becomes 5, then you have to carry out the remaining, that is the testing condition, 5 less than or equal to 4. If 5 less than or equal to 4, the condition is false. If the condition is false, it will come out from the outer loop also, that means here, okay. And this is the closing brace for the main function. You can see here, this is the closing brace for the, now since the outer loop becomes false, it will come out from this and we don't have any statements after this, so the program gets completed now, and in the output finally we have this pattern. See here, for the outer loop I equal to 1, all the inner loop execution it will perform up till j equal to 4, because for j equal to 5 the condition becomes false. Next, once again for I equal to 2, all the iterations pertaining to the inner loop. Next I equal to 3, that is for the outer loop I equal to 3, all the iterations pertaining to the inner loop. Next I equal to 4, all the iterations pertaining to the inner loop. So for every iteration of the outer loop, the iterations pertaining to the inner loop has to get executed. So with this we are able to print this pattern. So with this, I think you people have got now the clear picture of how the nesting of loops works. Hope you find this session useful. If you find it useful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.